This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to say these words, and sometimes when you hear them, it might be a little uncomfortable, but we are going to release you. You're being released. Now, that's your boss telling you that, not really that positive, but if it's somebody like her telling you that and referring to the trauma in your past life, and that could be your past life or earlier in your current life, it's holding you back. It's making a profound challenge for you. So let's release those traumas. And this is what she does as a Reiki master, pastoral counselor. She is an intuitive guide, interfaith minister, so much more. And she's got a long history of helping people do this. Chris Clearday is our professional of the year. She's back with us. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing great. But I am still breathing and grieving over the loss of Kinder. But that is to be expected after you have, a true love dog for so many years.
My condolences to you and your family on such a sweetie. And I only got to meet him here a few times. But I said it, and I'm going to say it again. I don't know what was going on with that dog, but the energy, like the loving energy that I felt with him just on your lap, it was amazing.
I know.
Something.
He was an amazing little soul. Yeah.
I'm going to say, since we're at this juncture, that's a trauma.
That's a trauma. And what I find interesting about that is that I was kind of wondering, how would my body react to this trauma? Especially because lungs generally hold grief. And, this was grief, that a deep, deep grief, even though I have a sense of peace because he was with me for so long. And, we tube fed him for almost 11 months. I mean, we were so committed to his well-being. But in some ways that leaves a bigger hole. And so what's really interesting is that since I had cleared out some grief a couple months ago, when I had all those epiphanies around the trauma that was stored in my shins around feeling unloved, unimportant, and unvalued, what I found is that, I didn't need to come down with bronchitis to deal with this grief. I did that a couple months ago, and my grief reservoir was relatively clear.
Do you feel that you talked about grief is usually stored in our lungs, that there was a connection without a doubt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that was before Kinder passed, but you knew it was happening. And you probably through your intuition knew way more even before that he was on the decline. You just know.
Yeah. He was declining for a long time. So I think that we had ample heads up. But grief is a process just like anything else is. And you don't want to avoid it. You can't outrun it. For those of us that are avoidant, avoidance is a way of making sure that you are always carrying something around. You are always at the effect of something. And if you're avoidant, you're at the effect of a lot of things, like a lifetime of accumulated traumas, little micro traumas, big macro traumas. But we have to really be willing to embrace what's there. And the truth is that everything that's there, like sadness, anger, fear, worry, depression, anxiety, addiction, whatever it is, it always comes up to be healed. The only reason your true nature sends it up to you is to be healed. And as I said, first it taps gently at your window, and if you don't acknowledge it, then it will be banging loudly at your door. And at this point, by the time all of us reach adulthood, we have a lot of stored traumas. And last week we talked about who, what, where, when, why. The who is everybody. Everybody stores trauma. What is microtraumas and macrotraumas? Where is anywhere in the body? Could be different for everybody. And why is that we are sensitive human beings and we get changed by things people have said or done to us, and then we reinforce those stories and change our own perception of ourselves. And we generally cling to some particular thought, feeling, and behavior patterns that disserve us and store those in our bodies.
Now, you've said before, and even today, even alluded again to it, about the disease and the illnesses and all that. Do you feel that many of us are sick and have issues, health issues and all of that, walking around with all of this because it's from those stored traumas? Not everything, no, but a very large percentage, much more than even the medical community even realizes.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we all have a trauma load. Everybody's walking around with a trauma load, including me. I've done my best to clear my trauma, and been really intentional about it for decades. I've been doing this work for 29 years. But of course, I mean, I just found trauma stored in my shin a couple months ago that opened up a whole Pandora's box of trauma and feeling unloved. And so, yes,
Like
there's not.
literally, can we go there? Can we just as an example? And I appreciate you, mask down on all of this, but you had an issue with your shin. Explain and the
Well,
connection too.
okay, so we also talked about this a couple segments ago, like episode 7, I think. Everything comes up to be healed. So I was in a session receiving some body work. The body worker touched my shins, and I was transported back to this time in my life
Okay.
where I had all of these feelings of being unimportant, unloved, unvalued. And then it expanded from there. I took that to a healing session, to a Reiki session, and then more episodes came up of me feeling unloved, unimportant, unvalued.
Okay. I recall you saying that, and I was thinking that there was a medical issue with your shins, but you're talking about there was just contact with them, and that transported you back to the beginning, if you will.
Yes, it did. And the reason it transported me back is that when I was 19, I had shin splints. So now at the age of almost 59, so 40 years later, the Rolfer touched my shins and boom, it was right there. Now she has touched my shins plenty of other times. It didn't come up.
Rolfing is call it loosely here, a type of body work, if you will.
Structural integration. Yeah, it's kind of deep work, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not generally emotional work. It's on physical. It's like structural realignment,
Yep,
posture
yep.
stuff.
Wow. When she did touch your shin or shins, what was that feeling? Did it instantly, like a time machine, transport you back to when you had the shin splints?
Instantaneously. I I was so surprised. I mean, of course, this happens all the time in sessions. When I'm working on other people, it just hadn't happened to me in a while. And yes, it was crazy. And that's a great example of how the body stores trauma.
Why was that a trauma for you? Certainly, shin splints, yeah, not the most comfortable thing in the world, but what was connected to that?
Okay, what was connected to that was feeling unimportant, unloved, and unvalued
And why is that connected to the shin splints
because of what was happening in my life at the
at the
time. So
time? Okay.
yeah, that's when I don't want to repeat all that because I
Mm,
don't want to make somebody go through like relive a past episode, but I had to sleep on the floor.
I
And
gotcha.
my father got remarried and
Totally remember your story here. And
yeah,
wow. So the shin splints was a reference point. It could have been, I have tennis elbow. I have a rotator cuff issue. If it was at 19 and the Rolfer touched it, it would bring
mhm,
you back to that time.
yes.
Got it. Okay.
If
Wow.
you're lucky, Steve, it'll bring you back. Because the truth is, that most of us don't have any way to release the stored trauma. Because, sometimes you'll be lucky enough to have an epiphany and a breakthrough. You could be, if you're getting acupuncture or a massage. Um, but most people have no way to really release the stored trauma. Even if you are really intentional about it, you can pray and meditate. Um, but it stays in there, and it usually requires something like Reiki to actually release it.
Mm. Is there a chance that you could have been just sitting, like we're sitting right now talking, and just, take your hand, just, like, you touch your arm or whatever, and then touch your shin, and you have that feeling, or does it would have to be done by somebody else in a healing capacity?
Well, it's always possible to have a spontaneous healing, always possible. And I pray that everyone is lucky enough for that. It just doesn't happen that often.
Right. And how is that healing going to take place? Like, let's say it's on your own, all right, just to touch my shin. Wait a minute, something's different here. That's the awareness. The healing is something different. Just by touching it, being aware, oh, wait a minute, that takes him back to my childhood. And I remember I had shin splints at that time. Oh, and that situation, sleeping on the floor. Oh, wait. You have the awareness. Where does the healing come in?
Well, I think that's the challenge for most people is even if you have the awareness, how do you let these things go? Most people know. For example, okay, I carry stress in my neck. Most people do that, right? And they're thinking it's just stress. Well, no, it's not just stress. It is a very particular kind of stress, like in the realm of an addiction to suffering that each person would carry in their neck. It's not like you can go to the store and buy stress. Doesn't exist. It's self-created. And, one person might be taking
Mhm.
things personally in their neck. Another person might be carrying not feeling good enough. Another person might be carrying self-judgment. Another person might be carrying self-sabotage. Like everybody's different, but everybody carries trauma. And, it's in the form of thoughts and feelings that disturbed you that got anchored in your body. And we're walking around with a trauma load, kind of like a debt load.
Okay, so neck, shoulders, right? My friend went to a chiropractor. I go maybe once a year or whatever. And they say, hey, they got a deal at Groupon, go there. And I'm like, hey, for $40, I get 2 sessions and an x-ray. Hey, why not? Everybody's got a little, hey, if you want to massage me or do anything, I'm on board. So
Hmm.
I go and get a session, and he identified a little of this, a little of that. I get another session, same kind of thing, make the adjustment. Some people don't like the crack. I like the crack. It feels good.
Yeah.
I go away. There's a
Crack.
reason. Say again. I'm sorry.
I'm addicted to the crack.
Yeah.
I love when they take my neck and go,
Oh, yeah.
love that.
It's like, and when they do it in such a way where you're tensing up, you're anticipating it. It's like, okay, 1, 2, and you're waiting for the 3, and you already got a
Right.
crack. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is after that session, I went away. Call it my own little retreat. It was a solo getaway. It was a few days. The total intention was to reflect,
Mhm.
study, learn, peace, tranquility, quiet. Wouldn't you know it? I was having new pain in my neck. Like, where is this coming from? What's going on? And I, came home. And I was thinking maybe it was I'm carrying my, carry on. I went back. He made another adjustment. I'm like, yeah, listen, they say sometimes you go to the chiropractor once, you got to go again. He goes, no, it's about maintenance. You have a C2 little issue there, blah, blah, blah. I'm seeing this in a different lens right now.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, it's probably some kind of stress that you were carrying.
Yes. And where did I go? I went away. And I'm going to tell you right now, the first 2 days when I was away, I was a mess. Like I couldn't relax. I had so many thoughts, everything. I just want to relax, stop. And then finally I did. But when now I know based on what you said. And it also had to do with my getaway because I was there for an intention to release a lot of things. And I bet you that came up for a reason. I'll bet you that, the weirdness in my neck came up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be
Oh,
surprised.
definitely. Way of releasing.
Releasing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we identify this, the only way is through energy healing or some kind of modality.
No, there are lots of ways, Steve. I mean, and by the way, my internet connection might be unstable, so just give me a hand gesture if it looks unstable to you. Um, so, you know, Reiki is probably one of the best ways to release trauma, but there are so many ways. There are retreats and seminars happening all over the world that are geared to release trauma. Um, it's just that most people aren't doing those kinds of things. And, I would say that maybe a good step would be for for everybody who's listening to just explore what your traumas are. One way to do that would be go back to your earliest worst memory or your worst earliest memory and see
Mm,
see what's in there. Like explore it, even journal about it. Even if you journaled about
wow.
it 10 years ago, journal about it again because you're a different person now than you were 10 years ago. And see how it affected you. So the things to do would be to ask yourself, how did this trauma affect me? And
Wow.
write it down. Like it made me less trusting, it made me less loving, it made me afraid of the world, it made me feel inadequate, it unimportant, like my earliest worst memory. I just felt terrifically unimportant. And I was like three, three and a
Mm,
half, something like that.
wow.
And I know that, see, the thing is, like, it seems like a big trauma. Okay. It was a micro trauma. Let's get clear. It was a little thing that happened, and I internalized it to mean that I was unimportant, which meant that I was not valued. Un and then it just mushroomed into feeling unloved and other things. Okay. So to understand really how that works, that's just one little micro trauma. It happened to be really formative for me. And it it's like I bought into it. I believed it. I believed the lie. And it stored. And some of the places it stored all in my body. And we were talking last week about posture. Posture is one of the places that it showed up. Um,
Mm,
and it's just interesting because we all are impacted by the things that have happened in our lives, and we're all walking around with it. That's why everyone feels so heavy, literally. And you only know how light you can feel if you give yourself the opportunity, if you seek the lightness and like do the work. So some of what we could do is we could take inventory of what our traumas are, the little ones and the big ones. But I would say everybody knows the big ones and everybody knows how the big ones affected them. What if you were to look at the little tiny ones, the things that people said or did to you when you were young that hurt you and changed you? So look at those things, see what they are and how they changed you, and then see how they could be hiding out in your body. So
mm,
if it's feeling, like if it's that you feel unimportant or unloved or not enough, and where is it that you store that kind of feeling in your body? Um, and if you don't know, I would say, like, seek healing because most people don't know. This is unconscious.
I just have an epiphany.
You did.
I did.
What?
So when I journal, it's about now, or it's about a situations in last couple of years that affect me now. I never thought about journaling about a childhood memory. Never even entered my mind. I don't know why. That's
Hmm?
why you're amazing at what you do. And I have that memory, like you said, 3.5. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And now, laser down here, my first memory is in an apartment on 3 years old on a little push car, feeling lonely and empty, with a massive sunburn with big blisters hanging off of me. And my parents were divorced, and my mom always had issues with my father taking the kids out, no sunscreen. Then I got I felt like it was my fault I got sunburn.
Mm.
And that's the starting point of much. But that's my first memory. Imagine if somebody else can get back to that first memory and journal about it and what may come from it.
Yeah, there is really a lot that comes from journaling about the past, and the worst earliest memories are so significant. Normally, what I find is that the earliest worst memory is the thing that really gives you your addiction to suffering, as we have been talking about for many episodes now. Um, and hopefully you're listening to this podcast in order so you can be caught up. But that addiction to suffering can run your whole life, and it can come out of one thing, seemingly innocuous thing that somebody said or did, or in this case, as you described, it was an experience that you had. So it doesn't need to be something that somebody said or did. I should make that clear. Sometimes it's something that somebody didn't do. So, like mine was something that somebody didn't do. Okay, so that made me feel unimportant and unloved. And you'll find, what were the words you used? Did you say unimportant and lonely or alone?
I felt, I'm on that little car pushing it with, big blisters of sunburn, just like feeling alone. Like, hey, here I am, and like the sunburn was my fault, but it wasn't. Obviously, I'm three. My parents, were fighting as they did, and blah blah blah. May seem insignificant, but that was the setup for the next situation, and the next situation, and the next situation, and the little mind looking for evidence of those things,
Right.
from each progressive situation, as on up, now, fifth grade, now sixth grade, on and on and on and on. But it's amazing how it starts, or can, with one earliest memory. And I don't want to be negative here. We're not here to do that. But I do believe, and I've heard this before, that many times the first memory you have is a negative one, because that's what you remember to protect you. That's why it comes up. And as I've learned from you, also comes up because it needs to be healed. That's the other reason.
Yeah, I would say I don't think that it comes up to protect a person. I think it comes up to be healed, but the knowledge of it should certainly let you know how you've been protecting yourself. Like, did you close down your heart? Did you decide that you weren't good enough, so you didn't let people in? Everybody adapts
Yeah.
in their way.
Oh my gosh, Anna, did you become a perfectionist just to please people, or make it look like, you are perfect because you believe that you weren't, so you got to compensate.
Yes.
We could fill 20 podcasts alone with the situations and the feelings
Yeah.
that present. Yeah. Wow. Well, you're amazing how you just like prime the mind to think. It's pretty wild. This is what you do. How do we connect with you, Chris?
Check out my website. It's chrisclearday.com, and my phone number's on there. I love phone calls and texts. I also have a class that I'm going to be starting at the end of the summer on finding your past, present, and future. It's designed for recent graduates, especially who have FOGU, fear of growing up. However, anyone is welcome to join that class. And I also have a meditation on my website under services that could be a nice meditation just to let your true nature help to reset you.
Yeah, even as adults, 3/4 through our lives, some of us, I have fear of growing up. I think
I think we all do.
I
Yeah.
think we all do. The adulting thing can be overrated. And why do we not want to grow up? Because maybe we don't want to face our traumas and our fears. You know, Wow. Thank you for today. It's always amazing talking with you and the things that are learned, and looking forward to connecting again.
You're welcome. Thank you, Steve.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.